Alfred Sant, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. May I start by thanking the Shadow Rapporteur and their staffs, as well as their assistants who worked directly with me for their inputs in making this draft report possible. They have a very good share in what can count as its good points. I retain full responsibility for what it may carry by way of defects. The report presents some conclusions regarding this year's country-specific recommendations, CSRs, put forward by the European Commission in the wake of its annual growth survey for this year. I say some conclusions on purpose. Last year in this one, the Commission streamlined and reduced its recommendations, better few and focused to make a more meaningful impact than many and diffuse, for these easily get blurred and overlooked. In preparing the present report with the compromises and amendments, the aim has also been to streamline the presentation, mainly by focusing on one issue: investment. Inevitably, in the process of sifting through the over 330 amendments received and trying to establish a common text, the original aim had to be watered down. Not too much, I hope, even if there could be some dissatisfaction that very valid points made in the amendments, as tabled, have been sidestepped in the quest for focus. Some topics that were sidestepped happen to be quite important for me too, such as underdevelopment in peripheral and island regions, especially in the south. The theme of investment, or its lack within the overall thrust of the CSRs, is central to the ongoing dilemma faced by Eurozone economies, indeed the rest of the EU. It is quite likely central to the major capitalist economies. While this draft report was being prepared, the Econ Committee held a meeting with the Governor of the Bank of France, Mr. François Villeroy de Goaillot. In his presentation, he highlighted the investment deficit, or dirt, as he calls it, which is at present plaguing not just Europe, but also America. And this despite the low cost of capital as of now. He claimed that the reason for this debt is not well known or understood. Arguably, investment debt is a main reason why European growth rates have remained unimpressive. So it is in the interest of us all to reflect on this problem and to focus on how we can reverse the reluctance to invest. Now, an academically respectable argument that was advanced during our discussions is that the unique exchange rate within the Eurozone, covering as it does very divergent economies, is in and of itself a major reason to explain why the propensity to invest remains low. According to this critique, Keynesian approaches to revive the investment appetite will not work given the current Eurozone framework. Personally, I find this analysis of great interest. However, it does not explain why in the US economy too, the propensity to invest is at a historical low. Also, within Europe and the Eurozone, there have been in the past periods when investment rates were much higher than the present ones, even though then, as now, the Eurozone could be claimed to operate at a suboptimal level. Surely, all other things being equal, it is rational and proper that one tries at least to go back to the higher investment levels achieved in the past. This is something about which all political groups should agree, though we will quibble whether the investment we look forward to should be only private, or both public and private, or something else. That this is so is shown in the various ways by which we have supported the EFSI initiative, though we do not necessarily share the same appreciation of its effectiveness. And in large part, we support too its extension and enlargement. Naturally, this time too, up for discussion came the ownership by national authorities of country-specific recommendations, and their implementation rate still very low by the same authorities. From what I heard and from the insights that amendments submitted bring up, we will need to reflect more on this issue. Certainly, there is a crucial divide between the Commission's necessarily Eurocentric approach towards CSRs and the national political perspectives that the capitals of Member States will bring to their consideration. In the adversarial politics of parliamentary democracies, CSRs can very often be perceived as options which sacrifice national interests to make way for pan-European strategies. They can also seem like tools offered to oppositions for them to indulge in partisan attacks against the government of the day. In my view, the contradictory pulls of such tensions still need to be clarified. Beyond this, however, we need to recognise that the implementation of CSRs, not least where investment initiatives are concerned, is highly dependent on subnational and regional authorities. This is so to a greater extent than I believed when setting out to prepare the present draft. As now tabled, it recognises the role of subnational and regional authorities in the implementation of CSRs. The greater involvement of these authorities could indeed hopefully help bridge the ownership and implementation gap between the recommendations as set in Brussels and the measures undertaken in national capitals to satisfy the requirements of the European semester. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.